Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the main points which emerged from Trump's meeting with Starmer, in which the US president basically trolled Nigel Farage, the Tories, and the Tory press by showing support for the Chagos Islands deal, which they've been attacking to try to get Trump to weaken the UK, because, you know, they're patriots, just not of this country. Even the Daily Mail had to take note on their front page today. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So in terms of what positive steps were made during Starmer's meeting with Trump, it's difficult to determine exactly. Like I said yesterday, we know that Trump is capable of saying one thing one day, then changing his mind the next, or more accurately, having his mind changed. For example, when asked if he still thought Zelensky was a dictator, Trump said, "Oh, did I say that? I don't think I said that." Next question. Progress, I guess, but more an indication of just how inconsistent he is and how happy he is to be inconsistent. Still, you could take it as a sign that he's listening to European leaders a little bit more, or maybe just sensible members of his own team now, but who knows for how long. But he also threw Farage especially under the bus with comments about the Chagos Islands deal. For those who don't know, it's an imperial throwback which the UK has no legal right to occupy, never really did, and international pressure has been ramping up for some time. But we and the United States have a vital military base there, so we have a deal with the Mauritians to leave one crucial island on a very long-term lease to use for that purpose. It's a deal which the Tories actually mostly concluded. They started it on the same lines as we finished it. Labour just finished it off. But because the Tories don't actually care about the national interest, only scoring political points, they then tried to attack their own deal in order to wreck it and therefore weaken the UK. But Farage was the one who really stuck his neck out in doing so, because Badenoch was claiming the deal was bad from her point of view. So although Trump has contradicted her, he hasn't as such undermined her. But Farage insisted that Trump thought the deal was bad. His objection was because Trump had objected. He attacked the deal on the basis it would drive a wedge between Britain and the United States. So when asked about the deal, and Trump said it sounded like it would work and didn't sound bad at all, he was contradicting Farage in a very public way. Nigel Farage, who is on a mission to goad Trump into wrecking the UK economy, because that's how he profits politically. At the end of the day, if people are feeling better off in 3 years' time, Labour are going to win that next election, aren't they? So Nigel Farage really needs people to actually be even worse off in a few years' time. That's what he wants to do, make people's lives worse. So he really wanted to use this to kickstart that process. He has failed on multiple levels. So far anyway, like I say, until something is irreversible, Trump can always change his mind. And there was another response from Trump where he could easily change his mind. And despite the positive spin in the British press, and this is more likely to. I've seen a number of UK news outlets focusing in on the question about tariffs and Trump suggesting that he didn't think he'd need tariffs on UK imports. But you look at what he said and he tied that statement to a trade deal. Now, we know that what Trump ideally wants is completely off the table, but he seems to have lost interest in that now. We also know, however, that Trump is not into win-win situations, only win-lose where he is the one who wins. So a trade of obvious mutual benefit, not on the cards, unless Trump can be persuaded that he is the big winner out of it. Now, there is scope for working something out, you know, or maybe we just string him along long enough to ride out his term and hope America remains roughly democratic. We're obviously not going to know what's going on behind closed doors, but we do know, and it was confirmed during the sort of press conference yesterday as well. So the Labour government are very keen on AI, and some of Trump's tech bros, including Musk, are in a position to get involved in that. Many of us may be a bit wary of letting those ghouls power an AI revolution here, which already needs more guardrails than it has. But it's not selling the NHS down the river or cutting food standards or anything like that. It's the sort of trade deal that Labour want anyway. So that's what we're looking at. That's what it sounded like from the press conference. We're talking about a trade deal that's limited to like tech. And that could keep Trump on side without screwing over public services. But I wouldn't take Trump's comment on tariffs to be wholly positive. I would take it to be almost a threat. He's effectively saying that if we can work together on a trade deal, he wouldn't see the need for tariffs. The problem is, like, he said we could get a trade deal really quickly. Now, okay, he says things like that, doesn't he? Oh, peace in 24 hours, trade deal next Tuesday. But they take time. They're going to take time. This is not Boris Johnson trying to negotiate with Trump. We'll just give him whatever he wants. We're going to thrash out a deal. Will Trump be satisfied that progress is being made, and as long as progress is being made, leave it as it is? Or does there come a point where in 6 months' time he really did want the quick deal, is not getting it, and throws a hissy fit? I mean, the main positive I would take is he was no longer suggesting that the UK should stop working so closely with the EU. So there are positive signs of movement from Trump, just even over the last few weeks. He doesn't sound like he's interested in trying to drive a wedge between the UK and the EU, which he still hates, of course. He's been attacking the EU again just this week. He's linking his treatment of Britain with his bilateral interests, no side issues, which is precarious still, but better than it was. Oh, and speaking of the EU, Trump also had something to say about Brexit. So he's still a supporter. Of course he is. It's like Putin's most successful foreign policy promise to date. But he said that Brexit would be proved right over the centuries. Over the centuries? Jacob Rees-Mogg promised the boomers who voted for it that they would see the benefits in 50 years. If they somehow, of course, unlock the secret to immortality. Now Trump is saying we'll take centuries. As Lando once said, this deal is getting worse all the time. In terms of Ukraine, it's pretty much in line with my understanding yesterday. Trump insists that there needs to be security to look after the American mining crews. So no pretense to even give a shit about Ukrainians, but at least it's some motivation for him to not want Ukraine invading further. Maybe. But there was no hint of an idea about how this security is to be achieved. Like I said yesterday, Europe should make it clear that their peacekeepers will protect Ukraine, not American mines. Tell Trump if he insists Europe does all that peacekeeping, there'll be no security assigned to American commercial interests, only population centres and infrastructure. But I got absolutely no hint of an answer to this conundrum from what either Starmer or Trump said, so who knows what was discussed behind closed doors. Starmer does suggest that there was progress made on it, but we won't know what that is yet. 'Tis worth noting that Trump's memory is really bad these days. It's only a few days ago that he claimed Europe had loaned a load of money to Ukraine and would be getting it back to justify his own extortion. And Macron had to correct him in front of the assembled press and go, no, mostly we just gave it to them. Exactly the same thing happened again yesterday. And Starmer had to make the same contradiction by saying that actually, no, most of the money from the UK was gifted. And there may be more as well. There are calls led by Ed Davey of the Lib Dems, which Labour are sympathetic to gifting the Russian assets we have frozen to Ukraine as well. There are legal difficulties. I've discussed those earlier this week. And Labour have suggested that they want a joint response with Europe on moves like that. And France and Germany at least are not keen on it. Starmer also seemed to have a little dig at Musk while he was at it, saying taking out a chainsaw isn't quite my style, when referring to his own planning reforms. Zelensky's meeting with Trump today. Awkward. But, I mean, needs to happen. Means Trump will also have met with 3 European leaders face-to-face in a week. There will then be a meeting of leaders, including Zelensky, in London on Sunday to discuss next steps. Like I've said, it'll need to focus on explaining to Trump that there will be European peacekeepers deployed for any peace deal to work, which Trump says he's happy with, even if Putin and Lavrov are not. But they will prioritise Ukraine over mining corporations. If Trump wants the mining operations defended, has to be American forces doing it. We need Trump to do more than simply approve of Europe having a defence. Problem is, Trump seems to think that just the presence of the Americans alone will stop Russia invading further. How do you think? So you think Putin will be too afraid to invade the rest of Ukraine if there are American mining corporations there? Like what? I mean, what if, for example, Putin calls Trump, because they're best buds, ahead of the next invasion, actually tells him about it. Keep this quiet, keep it to yourself, Don, mate. But I'm going to invade again. But don't worry, that mineral deal you've got Ukraine, you'll still have it with us. We'll honour it. Don't worry about that, mate. And we'll try to avoid killing Americans during our next rampage. Would Trump object to that at all? What would Americans, even Trump voting Americans, think to that? It's not obvious to me what Trump is really offering for this mineral deal. I guess if Ukraine does end up signing it, they must think it's the least bad option, but we will see. Finally, looks like the king was trolling Trump. Starmer handed over a letter from Charles inviting him on a state visit. Now, Starmer really laid it on thick. Oh, this is unprecedented. No one else has ever done this. It's special for you, Don, mate. For no other world leader has ever had a second state visit, you know. Never happened before. It's just for you. But the invitations to Scotland. Now, Trump's not really popular in the UK at all, really. And he wasn't likely to get a great reception in London, much like last time. Can't imagine the reception is going to get any better in Scotland. Actually, I can imagine the reception he's likely to get. Should be quite funny. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.